Imagine sitting in a classroom, trying to focus on your teacher, but every sound feels louder than it should. The lights feel too bright, someone keeps tapping their pencil, and chairs scrape across the floor. People are talking over each other. To everyone else, it may just feel like a normal school day, but for an autistic student with sensory sensitivities, the same classroom can feel overwhelming, exhausting, and almost impossible to learn in. That is why I want to persuade you that schools should create sensory-friendly spaces for autistic students. These spaces should not be seen as extra or unnecessary. They should be viewed as real supports that help students calm down, regulate, and return to learning. This topic matters because school is supposed to be a place where students feel safe enough to learn. But if the environment itself is causing stress, then learning becomes much harder. I care about this topic because autism is usually often misunderstood. People may notice a student shutting down, leaving class, or becoming upset, but they may not understand that the student is reacting to sensory overload, not trying to be difficult. First, sensory overload can seriously affect autistic students in school. According to Fiona Ho and Stephen Stagg in a 2016 article from the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, autistic kids reported sensory difficulties in their classroom and hearing affected them the most. Their study found that sensory experiences affected learning, especially by reducing concentration and increasing anxiety or discomfort. That matters a lot. That matters because a student cannot fully focus on a lesson if their brain is trying to survive the noise of the classroom. A loud hallway, a fire alarm, the cafeteria, or even a buzzing light can become more than just annoying. It can become a barrier to learning. Howe and Stagg also found that all students in their study reported difficulty in at least one sensory area. The students described experiences as mostly negative, and the author suggested that schools should create individual sensory profiles for autistic students. To me, that sensory needs shows that sensory needs aren't rare or random. They are a real part of many autistic students' school experience. If we ignore those needs, we are just like everyone else. We are basically just asking students to push through pain, anxiety, or overload just to participate like everyone else. Think about how hard it is for any of us to concentrate when we are stressed. Now imagine that school and stress being added together, and it's happening every day because of sounds, light, smells, crowds, or both. That is why schools really need to take sensory overload very seriously. Now that I have explained that sensory overload can affect learning, I want to look at how sensory spaces can help. A sensory space is a very calm area where students can go where they feel overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be a huge room. It could be a quiet corner, a small room, or a designated break area. It might include soft lighting, noise-reducing headphones, comfortable seating, calming visuals, or simple sensory tools. According to Jennifer Sarant in a 2018 article from the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, autistic students reported that traditional accommodations often focus just on academics, but their sensory and social needs were frequently neglected. Sarant's article recommends neurodiverse spaces with low lighting, low noise, no strong smells, in quiet areas where students can be alone for a short time. This supports my argument because autistic students themselves have said that sensory needs matter. Since extended test time or written instructions can help, but they don't solve everything. Sometimes students need a place to calm their nervous system before they can focus again. Sarah also discusses how higher education can become more autism friendly by listening to autistic people directly and creating supports that match their actual experiences. That idea can apply to middle school, high schools, or even colleges. We shouldn't design supports based only on what adults assume students need. We should also listen to autistic students and families. Sensory spaces are not just about letting students avoid schoolwork. They're about helping students come back to schoolwork. A student who takes 5 or 10 minutes to calm down may be able to return to class and participate. Without the space, the same student might shut down, have a meltdown, miss a lesson, or feel embarrassed in front of classmates. This is also important emotionally. When a school provides a sensory space, it sends a message: you are not a problem. Your needs matter, and we have a plan to support you. That can make a huge difference in a student's sense of safety and belonging. Now that I have shown you how sensory-friendly spaces can help students regulate, I want to explain why schools can create these spaces in realistic and exclusive ways. Sometimes people hear sensory-friendly room and imagine something expensive or complicated. But if it doesn't have to be, students can start small. And a sensory-friendly space could include dimmer lighting, a quiet seating area, headphones, fidgets, visual schedules, or a sign-out system for short breaks. The goal is not to create a luxury room. The goal is to create a safe, predictable place where overwhelmed students can reset. According to Gia White and colleagues in a 2023 scoping review published in Education Sciences, inclusive schools for autistic students are stronger when they use student strengths and interests, and when they collaborate with parents and colleagues and then adjust the school environment to support the students' needs. This connects directly to sensory-friendly spaces because inclusion is not just about placing autistic students in the same classroom as everyone else. Real inclusion means adjusting the environments so students can actually participate. White and colleagues also explained that strength-based approaches look at what autistic students can do, what they care about, and what supports help them succeed. Their review highlights teacher knowledge and parent collaboration, specialized instructions, and environmental support as important parts of inclusive school environment. So a sensory-friendly space should not be treated like a punishment room or a place where students are sent away. It should be part of a strength-based school culture. Students should know when and how they can use it. Teachers should understand that it is a support, not a reward or an escape. Another source of support is the systematic review protocol on autism and built environments. The authors explained that sensory overload in physical environments can increase stress, anxiety, and avoidant behavior for autistic people. They also discuss how stress-adapted environments such as dim lighting, spaces for calming movement, or pressure may help meet sensory needs. Even though the source focused on healthcare settings, the idea applies to schools too. Schools are also built environments. Students spend hours there every day. If hospitals and clinics need to think about lighting, noise, layout, and predictability for autistic people, then schools should think about those things too. The good news is the sensory spaces can benefit more than just autistic students. A quiet, calming space may help also students with anxiety, ADHD, trauma, or stress. It can support any students who needs a short moment to regulate. This makes the space more inclusive, not less. To sum it all up, sensory overload can interfere with learning. That sensory-friendly spaces can help students regulate and return to class, and the schools can create these supports in realistic and inclusive ways. And sensory-friendly spaces are not just comfortable rooms. They are tools for access. My goal is not for you to just understand the issue. My goal is for you to support action. If you become a teacher, parent, student, teacher, administrator, or community member, support sensory-friendly spaces in schools. Support teacher training about sensory needs. Support the idea that autistic students should not have to suffer silently in environments that overwhelm them. The school should not only ask how can we make students fit in the environment. A better question is, how can we make this environment support the students who are already here? Because sometimes the difference between a student shutting down and a student succeeding is not a lack of effort. Sometimes it's just having one calm place to breathe, reset, and feel safe enough to learn again.